All right. Welcome to Clear Vision Wednesday. This is my weekly show on YouTube, and I am Claudia Mühlenweg. I'm known as the Holistic Vision Coach. My method is called the Natural Clear Vision Method, and I've been teaching natural vision improvement for officially since 2009, but I've been really working with my own vision since I'm basically a young kid, because I got my first pair of glasses at the young and tender age of 3 years old. And today I'm starting a new little series today inside the Clear Vision Wednesday, where I want to talk about the mistakes that people make when it comes to vision improvement. And today, and so far I've identified 5 mistakes, but I figured to keep these videos shorter, I'm going to do one at a time. And today I'm going to talk about the number 1 mistake. And maybe I discover more than 5, but today I want to talk about the number 1 mistake when it comes to vision improvement. And we will look at that in just a second. But let's think about, I say vision improvement, right? Some of you might say eyesight improvement. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between eyesight and vision. That might be something that you're not really aware of. So eyesight is actually known as visual acuity, right? We've all seen these charts called Snellen charts. This is where you measure, your vision 2200, 2020. That's known as eyesight. So eyesight technically just means visual acuity, and it's usually measured. You're static, the object is static, so you're looking at an eye chart and how sharp can you see that point. In real life, we're usually moving, objects are moving. So yes, eyesight is very important. We need to know how sharp we can see things, but it's just one aspect. So I just want to say the difference. And vision really means the central vision, the peripheral vision, the binocular vision, how the eyes work together, your night vision, your color vision, your inner vision, and even your life vision. How do you see? What is the vision for your life? Who do you want to be, right? So when I work with my clients, this is all the things that we look at. However, people come usually for eyesight, and I want to share a little quick story. So I'm actually building a quiz. I'm still in the middle of it. I haven't finished it yet, but I want to create a quiz. And I tested 4 different quiz questions. It was totally randomized, sent to my email list, and we simply looked at like which question, the subject line was the one that that people opened up, right? Which quiz question was the most interesting one that people opened up the email? And we had something about habits, about the true age of your eyes, about the ability to reduce or reverse eye diseases. And guess what? The question that won, which eye exercises will get you to 2020? And that is the number 1 biggest mistake. It's not the 2020, but eye exercises. So when I share with people what I do, they say, oh, you mean eye exercises? And I'm like, no, not eye exercises. This is kind of what everybody thinks. So let's look at that a little bit, right? Eye exercise, you might have seen videos. In yoga, they do certain things, like maybe you've seen the clocks where you turn your eyes slowly in a circle one way or the other way, or you move you look at your thumb and you go in and out, or you do this, you look up, you look down, you look left and right. You get the idea, right? What do all these things have in common, especially these kind of movements up around the clock or up and down, those kind of diagonal? Paul McCartney has a video on how that kept his vision in top shape. Here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with these, but it's like stretching of your outer eye muscles. I'm going to my eyeball a little bit more. We have these, we can't really see them here. We have 6 outer eye muscles. And yes, stretching the eye muscles is going to be great. It improves blood flow, lymph flow, tones the muscles, right? It's just like how we would be stretching when we do a yoga class, for instance. But now look at the idea of like stretching when it comes to our sensory experience, right? Like think of that's going to improve my ability to taste. Or if I'm pulling on my ears, I can hear better, right? Or if I don't know, when you think of touch, right? If I pull on my fingers. So the idea of stretching, yes, stretching is great. But let's use another metaphor. Let's think of like, physical movement of the whole body, not just the senses. If we would only stretch, would we improve our functional ability to move? Would we improve our ability to lift heavy boxes, to reach the cup in the top of the cupboard? Would we be improving our endurance? Would we be improving our strength? No, right? So stretching, yes, it's one little piece of physical wellness, right? One teeny tiny piece. And that's the same with those kind of things that we would call eye exercises. Again, nothing wrong with them. A teeny tiny part of what I teach too, but eye exercises alone will not get you to perfect vision because they do not address the 4 factors that actually affect your eyesight and your vision, both factors, right? The visual acuity and your actual vision. So let's look at those 4 aspects. Basically, the number one thing we as vision teachers talk about is relaxation. And what do we mean by that? When you are in fight or flight mode, or let's backtrack actually. So when you're not relaxed, we have the 2 nervous system states. Most of you have probably heard about them. The parasympathetic nervous system state, the sympathetic nervous system state. We also have the vagal theory. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of that. But when you are stressed, and that could be mental, physically, emotionally, when you're stressed, your peripheral vision shuts down, your pupils open up, your adrenaline goes up, you're basically in that like fight or flight mode. You're ready to take action. And that is not a bad thing. We need that. But your vision is not great. It's compromised. Because have you ever had a dilated pupil exam? You cannot see sharp, right? Your peripheral vision shuts down, somebody might hit you. You don't see that object coming. So the key, the state to have good vision in is always the relaxed state. And there's different forms of relaxation. I've taught on this before, passive relaxation, active relaxation. It doesn't mean that we're like plopping down on the couch, but it means just like think back to the other senses that you do things in an easy, effortless way. When you're hearing, right, unless you have hearing problems, you're not opening up your ears like a big trombone or something. The sounds come to your ear, or when you want to touch or you feel your skin, you don't make an effort. And this is really what's important in vision improvement, is being in that relaxed state, not making an effort like the cartoon characters where the eyeballs kind of plowing, jump out of their eyes, right? That's the key aspect. And nervous system regulation means, or getting into a relaxed state, is different for everybody. And in my method, I teach very different approaches. We work physically, we work with my, therapy balls, physical relaxation. So think of massage, relaxing the tissues. We call that from the bottom up. That's kind of a way to relax the body and the whole being, the mind, the brain, everything gets relaxed, right? We teach other methods, which are more the relaxation, the top-down approach, where you relax, you start with the brain. So think of meditation, or we do something called palming, where you meditate and you rest your eyes at the same time. All those things are good. For some people, they need to move, right? Maybe you love a beach walk, or maybe you like to be in the forest. For another person, forest could be really, maybe there's traumatic, memories of somebody, chasing you. So everybody has different places, positions, mindset things that help them to relax. So there's no cookie cutter answer to what helps you to quickly relax. Obviously, I also teach yoga, breath, right? Breath is such a powerful tool. So you want to get into that relaxed state and to really, feel as relaxed as you can. And it doesn't mean sleepy. It just means alert without being stressed, paying attention without like stressing out and looking like crazy. I hope this makes sense. So that's number one, right? Nervous system regulation. The other aspect is, and that's why I brought my eyeball, is, seeing the way the eye anatomy is built. So there's a little plastic eyeball here. I will take out the cornea, we'll take out the iris and the lens, and then the vitreous humors. This is the gel-like structure, the jelly inside the eyes. So when we look, this is the back of the eye, this is the eye, right? This is the retina, all the orange stuff here. When we look at that retina, right, we see this is all filled with great photoreceptor cells, but only in the fovea lutea, the yellow spot here, is where we have perfectly sharp vision. And this, an actual eyeball is more like an inch, right? It's way, way smaller than this thing. And the size of the fovea is about the size of a pinhead. It's very tiny. And so our area of absolute perfect sharp vision, that visual acuity, is tiny. It's almost like a mathematical point. And that means that when you use the eye anatomy, you don't try to see this huge picture clear at once, right? You move your eyes. You basically have to move your eyes in order to see more than one little thing sharp. Now we have our near periphery, we have the middle periphery, we have the outer peripheral vision, right? So when you look at this, the retina, yes, we have vision here, we have vision here, we have vision here. But the further out you get into the periphery, the less clear or well you can see it. In fact, in the outer periphery, we don't even have color perception because we only have rod cells. They do not see color. They're very light sensitive. Versus in the fovea lutea, we only have cone cells, which are the sharp cells that give us color vision. So that's like the best, sharpest vision. And people with poor vision, especially, I don't have any glasses. I just found these on the beach. I didn't prepare for this, but you know, these are like sunglasses, one thing, but basically glasses make us think, right? Everything here is sharp and everything outside is blurry. When in reality, even if I had 20/10 vision, everything that's next to the point I'm looking at is not going to be 20/10. So that's the second aspect. The third aspect is that we actually see in the brain. We see in the visual cortex, in the back of the head. We do not see in the eyeball. And the retina is actually a part of the brain. So the eyeball, part of the eyeball is part of the brain, but 90% of our vision is happening in the brain, meaning our actual visual perception is in the brain. I always say the retina doesn't know a table from a chair, right? In fact, the image on the retina is upside down, as you might remember from biology class. So the brain is where we perceive, and the perception is actually where we see. That's the actual seeing. And even Dr. Bates, 100 years ago, the founder of vision improvement and ophthalmologist, Columbia professor, obviously he's now deceased, but he said what we see is not the impression on the retina, but our own interpretation of that. And that's why sometimes you ask like 10 people, you know, what did you see? Everybody will give you different answers. And even if they all had 20/20 vision, what did they notice? What did they perceive? What memories do they have? What do they remember? What kind of connotation do they make, right? That's where all these other factors come into how we perceive things, how we perceive other people or things are based on our past experiences and our memories. There's always kind of a prejudice, sounds negative, but there's always kind of the experience already informs how we interpret things, right? So all these things come together. And so let's do, so basically what I mean by brain, our memory and our imagination have a big impact on our actual seeing. And I shared a story many times from Oliver Sacks's book, The Mind's Eye, where he talked about this Australian guy, Torrey was his last name, and he lost his vision at age 20 in a freak chemical accident. And he continued to practice his visualization skills. And he had vision like a seeing person in a way. He repaired his own roof as a completely blind person. So we now know from MRI and imaging studies that when we imagine something, our brain fires up the same way as if you actually see something. So let's say I have this pen here, right? So I can look at this pen, right? There's a blue top, there's a little bit of a metal piece. There's like, you know, it's obviously an American flag. There's blue background with white stars, and then there's these stripes, right? So I can look at this pen, and now I can close my eyes. And now, do I have a visual memory of what I saw? Do I remember what I saw? Or is your memory so poor that you close your eyes and literally there's nothing there? If that's the case, can you open your eyes again? And then can you close your eyes and now maybe use imagination? I have an imagination. I can imagine a pen. It had a blue top. It had the white stars on blue background and the stripes, so on. So this is how we can actually really improve our vision, is by training our brain, our memory and imagination. And then the fourth aspect is what I call naturally key vision habits. And it's not just because my method is called naturally key vision, but it's like the habits that people with perfect vision have. And I've talked about this before. One of these habits is blinking. People that have great vision blink a lot. And why do they do that? First of all, it lubricates the eyes. It rests the eyes for a nanosecond, right? Like any other organ, we sometimes just take a little break. Sometimes we don't want to hear music. We just want to hear peace and quiet, right? Our eyes, our visual system needs a little break too. And blinking does that. But also because it prevents staring. Remember the fovea, right? Remember our central vision. Now, if that area of perfect clarity is really that tiny, what do you need to do? You need to have lots and lots and lots of movement, like a really fast camera shutter to get like more of a bigger picture. Of course, you have your peripheral vision, so you have the context. But in order to see the next thing sharp, your eyes have to move a lot. And people with perfect vision have very fast saccadic eye movements, super fast, versus people with poor vision, their eye movements are very, very slow because they stare. And blinking is like one of those things, the second you blink, it's kind of, like sometimes you see people like doing this and you're like, and you wake up, right? It's almost like you're zoning out. So blinking is one of those habits that people with great vision automatically have. The other thing is, I'm not going to teach this now, but we do a lot with movement and natural vision improvement. We do shifting, swinging, swaying. We do different techniques. And those are not eye exercises. Those are practices that are designed to get you back to these naturally clear vision habits. I don't do any of these things anymore because I now use my eyes well all day long by using these habits. So I'm not practicing this. Initially, you have to relearn to see, and you have to practice certain things, but they're not eye exercises. They're whole body mindset practices that really help you understand how easy and effortless good vision is. Now, one of these things is that when we move our bodies, like let's say I'm swaying, or I'm just shifting my eyes side to side, that everything around me seems to have an apparent opposite movement. So when I move my eyes to the left, the computer to the right, the computer's to the left. Now I move my eyes to the left, computer's to the right, as if the computer shifted. Of course, I moved my eyes, but anybody with perfect vision, when I ask them, does it seem objects are moving? And they're like, yeah, of course. Most people that have poor vision, I'm like, what do you mean? Nothing is moving, right? So it's almost like when you ask somebody with great vision, like, what are your tricks or habits? They're like, I don't know, because they do these things automatically. So those are the habits, and that's how you get to great vision, to first of all, understanding them here, and then practicing these things, practicing the relaxation, understanding eye anatomy, practicing the naturally clear vision habits, training your brain. And that gets you to 2020, 2015, 2010 vision, to improve peripheral vision, to improve night vision, to better color perception, all these different things that we talked about, to having better inner vision, better insight, and also really having a vision for your life, because all these things are connected. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to look at some questions on YouTube and answer those. And then afterwards, we always have a little extra time in my Clear Vision Club, where we also go and talk about these things and discuss things. So hope that was helpful. And one more thing before I answer the questions, I have a program that I designed to be super easy to implement. It's called my 21 Days to Better Eyesight Experience. And what I teach in the 21 Day is not my complete method, because that's my advanced, my comprehensive course. In the 21 Day program, you learn the foundation, relaxation of eyes, body, and mind, that nervous system regulation, and the eye anatomy, and we work with the brain, and you learn the vision habits. But it's really like level 1 of all these 4 aspects versus the comprehensive things where we get into everything. And this is a great way to get started, because it's little mini short videos each day and a little practice each day that doesn't take you more than a few minutes. However, the goal is then that the practice that you do, for a few minutes, that you then make them habits. That's the outcome. And at the end of the program, you get what I call a little clear morning ritual that is customizable, where you combine these things into you can do it like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but you can create a little morning ritual that gets you set up. You combine it with meditation or prayer that gets you set up right for the day, right? And I still do that. I meditate every day. And so when I meditate, I do some light, I do some calming, but I don't practice any of those. I would never do like stretching, right? My eye muscles are relaxed. And if I ever feel that tight, yes, I would maybe do something and check, but this is not how you get to great vision. So the 21 Day program, in the summer, we only offer it as a self-study course. Now in October and November, and this next group starts next week on October 2nd, we're doing it as a live cohort. So the trainings are pre-recorded. That's true. There is a group that goes through it together, and it comes with a kickoff call. It comes with a coaching call. And then we have a final call where we celebrate our wins and talk about next steps and how you can continue your vision improvement journey. So that program is available. The link is in my show notes underneath in the YouTube video. And if we would love to have you in the program, it's very affordable. And the whole idea I created is to make it easy to get started, because if you just keep practicing eye exercises, trust me, your eye muscles will be great stretched, which is good. However, you will not see improvements in your vision. Trust me. All right, let me look at the questions on YouTube. Any books and apps for helping vision training? That is a great question. There are a few apps. I've tested a bunch of them. I haven't really found any apps per se. That was actually some of the things I wanted to do, is create an app. With all the things I'm doing, I haven't gotten around to do that yet. There is one app that is called Glasses Off that was developed from UC Berkeley for people with presbyopia, for readers. I found it extremely boring, and I honestly, tested it, but it's like basically just speed things where you have to move and you have to see contrast, and the contrast gets weaker and weaker, and you have to move your eyes. So it's definitely an app that could be helpful. However, what I find helpful for most people with vision improvement is more the kind of habit tracking app, performance app. So, if you want to change anything in your life, you need to be consistent. And you've all heard, like, it takes 21 days or 66 days or whatever number of days to establish a new habit. And I don't know if there is actually a certain number of days, what it takes, but the habit tracking, where you get certain streaks for sticking to a habit, I find those usually helpful too. But when it comes to apps, again, I've looked at a bunch of them, but I can't really tell you there's one secret great app. Books, obviously, there's a whole lot of books. My whole bookshelf behind me is full of books on vision improvement. And I do want to write my own book. So many things on my idea list. I think the original Bates book is always a great book to get started. It is written by an eye doctor who is very much a professor, and it was written 100 years ago. So the language is a little outdated, and it's very dry, but it also gets to the point very well. There's also a website where you can read that book online. I think it's called Central-Fixation or something, but when you Google that, it's actually not copyrighted anymore. You should be able to find that. The Dr. Bates Perfect Sight Without Glasses is the title of the book, and it was written in 1920. There is actually a podcast that two of my colleagues are running. It's called the Better Eyesight Podcast, by Nathan Oxenfeld and Esther Joy van der Werf. I was a guest many times because Dr. Bates also published the so-called Better Eyesight magazines that he started in 1919. And what Nathan and Esther have been setting up is basically 100 years later. So now we would be in we're going to jump into the October 1923 episode. And so basically the teachers that are on the show that month are reading the episodes, and then there's going to be a discussion, like, how does that apply to our daily life now? And so that's a really great one. It's completely free, Better Eyesight Podcast. And other than that, I love the book by Aldous Huxley. Obviously, he was a great famous writer, A Brave New World. He also worked with the Bates method, and he had great vision improvements. And he wrote a book called The Art of Seeing. It's also from 1943, so the language is a little, like, he calls practices drills, so those things the language is a little outdated, but it is more poetically written because it's an actual writer who wrote that book. I think it's out of print, so you have to kind of get a used copy of that. So those are some great books to get started, and then there's so many other books. But here's the thing. I started with a book, and I'm immensely grateful for that book, to be honest. But the book is what I call a spark. It kind of gets you thinking, gets you practicing, but usually it fizzles out, right? You have that spark, and then you need coaching. What I found really for people to have success is coaching. That's how I finally had final success. That just the book alone, usually, or like a CD back in the day or something like that, where you don't get any support. It's so incredibly challenging, and you don't have any accountability. Nobody's going to check on you. You might actually feel other people might make fun of you, that you think you can improve your vision. Your eye doctor. I did a show an episode called Naturally Clear Vision, a Q&A last Tuesday that is on my YouTube channel. The first video says start here, where I talk about all those different challenges that we face. You have to believe in it, right? There's all these aspects. So a book, again, is a great way to get started. But I've never seen anybody succeed from just reading a book alone. That's just my humble opinion. And same with YouTube videos. Even though I have a YouTube channel and it's important for me to educate, at the end of the day, those can all be like igniters, sparks to get you going, to kind of get some ideas. But at the end of the day, with any kind of big change in your life, you need some mentor or some coach to actually help you, because we don't see our own blind spots. Let's see what other questions. I might have answered. Here, I love this. Thank you for Faye asking. So staring at the computer screen, does that cause blurred vision? So yes, computers aren't, here's the thing, yes and no. So computers are not great for our eyes, right? It's pretty close-up distance, which is kind of already a muscular effort, focusing effort, converging your eyes, just like anything at the near point is more of an effort for our visual system versus looking in the distance is relaxing. And there's backlit pixels, which is harder to see than a physical object. Reflecting light. Let me just put my eyeball to the side. But here's the interesting thing. 3 weeks ago, I did this 3-day event. I was on the computer for 30 hours. We did 8 hours each day, and then we did additional coaching in the end on the second day. Both my team and many participants on literally 30 hours over 3 days on the computer reported improved eyesight. Isn't that interesting? And the video editor of the Vision 2020 documentary that my colleagues Nathan Oxenfeld and Barry Ocketel did, he was editing video, like thousands of hours of footage into like I think an hour and a half documentary. His vision improved just listening to all the stories. So, yes, our computer's great, right? Especially if you don't blink. Studies have found that people looking at screens don't blink as much. So this is where the habits come in, right? I can't even not blink anymore. Like it just hurts my eyes, but we used to be very good at staring. And so that's where you want to train your nervous system or your brain to do those things automatically, like blinking. And then to me, computers are not an issue anymore. And also I have a little mobile on the side that's moving. So I always have lights on that I have a mirror over there that my peripheral vision, like I'm moving my hand and I see that reflection in the mirror. So I get kind of that peripheral vision stimulation so that I don't get so exhausted from looking at the screen. But great questions. You have any tiny black bubbles in my right eyes? I mean, if it suddenly appears, I would definitely see an eye doctor, definitely make sure there's nothing serious going on. Floaters can look like little worms, or they can look at little, like, they used to call them flying mosquitoes or something. So they could be like little things. Most people, I have a couple in my right eye, but usually I think I got them in my early 40s. I'm actually testing pineapple enzyme bromelain right now because that's supposed to help with floaters. So I've been testing that. I'm going to do a reel on that once I'm done with my testing. But basically, supposedly that enzyme in pineapples helps reduce floaters. A study in Taiwan showed that. But it could also be other things. When we think of our precious eyes, how small and soft and vulnerable they are and what we do to our whole bodies, I think we need to have more reverence for our eyes, for our whole bodies, and the miracle this whole machine is. That we abuse I always say I used to smoke cigarettes. I mean, I totally fessed up to all the bad stuff I did over the decades when I was younger, especially. But, clean up your diet, guys. Everybody clean up your diet. Don't wait till you get cataracts, macular degeneration, glaucoma, all these things until you might change this. Don't wait, because then it's, might not be reversible. It might be challenging to even stop it. I always promise my clients to a minimum degree with full commitment, you can stop that. But don't wait, I hope you're listening or watching these videos when you're like 21 years old and you're making smart choices now. Don't get into glasses because they will decline your vision. Find natural methods to improve your vision. I did it twice in my life. Was in glasses twice in my life, and 2 times in my life I got out of them. And it makes a huge difference to your freedom, to your confidence, to how young you look. Put in the chat and guess my age. I probably said it too many times live on YouTube, but guess my age. Most people guess that I'm younger than I am. And glasses age you up on average up to 5 years up, and they do it up to 10 years. So when you wear glasses, and maybe that's a great thing when you're 21, but when you're my age, you don't want to look older, trust me. When I looked at the pool, it looked like it was covered in black specks. I definitely, Brenda, they look at other things. So floaters usually are most noticeable when you look at a white wall or the sky. Floaters are also related to stress. It's also basically floaters are, the vitreous humor, that is that gel I talked about, that's in the back of the eye. And eventually, as we get older, that shrinks a little bit. And sometimes the protein pieces detach and they kind of float around. There's extreme things where they suck out your whole vitreous and they replace it with some new artificial. If it gets really, really bad, there's some drastic surgeries you can do. But and overall, you want stress reduction, you want a clean diet, plenty of water, all the things that you hear all over, exercise, movement. And exercise is just one little piece of movement. It's just a tiny, tiny piece of movement. So moving, you know, I'm standing at my desk right now, I'm not sitting, all these things. Where can you walk, take the stairs? You know, we've all heard this stuff before. But, you know, I'm going to see my second cousin who's an eye doctor again when I go to Germany for Christmas. And I just get my eyes checked, not for glasses. I get my eyes checked for, you know, are there any brewing issues? Is there anything going on with my lens? Does my retina look clear? Does my optic disc, which is the optic disc is the part of the eye. So that's the sharpest vision, the fovea, and the optic disc is where the optic nerve that connects the visual cortex, the brain, to your retina kind of ends. And if you have glaucoma problems, intraocular pressure is too high, there's something called cupping in the advanced stages. So they're looking at, you know, you do want to see an eye doctor, especially if you have any family risk for any eye diseases. And I would say if you're 50, definitely see an eye doctor once a year. I've been guilty. It's been like 2.5 years since I last saw her. But you do want to get your eyes checked, and don't walk away with a prescription. Don't fill that prescription necessarily. Talk to me, talk to another vision improvement teacher. It doesn't mean that you should throw your glass away. Safety always first. But, you know, the glasses create more and more dependency, especially reading glasses. They just lead you down to the path of vision loss. You start with wearing them once in a while. Before you know it, you can't see the distance. Perfect 20/20/20/15 vision is gone. And then you need bifocals and progressives, and you're basically completely unable to function without putting glasses on your face. And I really don't want that for you. Okay, Gwen. Okay, awesome. Yay. Yes, Nathan Oxenfeld. Okay, you guys, I think I looked at all the questions on YouTube. So we will end this. We have a great session next week for Clear Vision Wednesday. I'm blanking on her last name right now. I will actually be driving to a conference, the Mindshare Leadership Summit in Arizona, where I meet with like hundreds of other holistic health practitioners. And so I will not be in the next Clear Vision Wednesday, but Trisha Kirby, who's been on the show several times, she's an amazing intuitive energy healer. And she also works with me in my highest level programs and helps people unblock or get their emotional blocks released, because emotions play a huge role in vision. And I haven't even covered that yet, but emotions are obviously very important. So she will be interviewing, and I'm blanking on the last name right now, Jennifer, and they're going to be talking about grief, and grief can have a huge impact on your vision, right? Like many emotions, but grief, sometimes we find that dry eye is related to grief that was never released. So stay tuned for that next Wednesday. And I will not be there, but then we will come back on the 11th. Topic of the month in our Clear Vision Club is Love Your Eyes at Work. That's something that there's World Sight Day. If you haven't heard of it, World Sight Day. They always have second Thursday of each year. There's a day where it's designated, and that's not something I'm doing. That's another organization. And the theme this year is Love Your Eyes at Work. And so we're going to have Margie Bissinger. She is a physical therapist, ergonomics expert, and happiness coach. And she's going to tell us on the 11th about ergonomics, how to set up your computer so that your vision doesn't suffer, that your back and your posture doesn't suffer, which is also related to vision. All right, everybody on YouTube, I wish you a great rest of your day, and I'll see you. Well, I don't see you next week, but you guys can join my Clear Vision next week, but it's just without me next week. All right, everybody. Thank you. And if you have questions about any of our programs, email us at support@myholisticvision. We would love to see you in the 21-day program. If you're ready to take some action and do a program that's easy to implement, that gives you that clear morning ritual. Like, people have left the program with no glasses. They were able to ditch their glass in 21 days. For some, it takes a little longer. There's always other things you can do afterwards. So anyway, bye YouTube. Subscribe, share it with your